Liz Karmouche just captured the 2025 PFL Women's Flyweight Tournament crown, and all signs now point to her colliding with Dakota Ditcheva next. Dakota, the 2024 PFL champion, has since seen her throne claimed by Carmouche. While both fighters remain under PFL contracts, the prospect of competing on the White House card is enticing for them. It's the kind of special occasion where Dana White might step in and grant a one-fight deal, giving these two elite flyweights the chance to showcase their skills in front of the president. So let's rewind their journeys, look at the build-up to this potential showdown, and break down how a clash between Carmouche and Ditcheva could play out. Unlike Liz Karmouche, who has been involved in the sport of mixed martial arts practically since its early days and carved her place as one of the female pioneers in the UFC, Dakota Ditcheva is a much newer face in MMA. Yet, despite starting her professional MMA career only 4 years ago, her rise has been nothing short of meteoric. What Carmouche accomplished through decades of grit and experience, Ditcheva managed to compress into a handful of years, forcing the entire combat sports world to take notice of her explosive talent and relentless ambition. Before ever stepping into the cage, Dakota honed her craft in the unforgiving world of Muay Thai. She wasn't simply another athlete competing in regional shows. She was making statements. With roots in both Britain and Bulgaria, Ditcheva quickly became a nightmare for her opponents in Europe, but she didn't stop there. She went to Thailand, the mecca of kickboxing, to test herself against some of the best strikers in the world. One of her most notable appearances there came in her bout against Hongfakor Jalanfak. True to her aggressive, sharp-edged style, Dakota picked her opponent apart with precision strikes to the head before deciding to end the contest with a brutal knee to the body. The finish was a chilling reminder of how fragile the human torso can be when hit by a perfectly timed strike. Between 2014 and 2017, Ditcheva racked up an impressive 10 wins in kickboxing, building a resume that highlighted her as one of the most polished strikers of her generation. Her striking game was not just built on technique, but also on a certain mean streak, a willingness to finish fights emphatically rather than let the judges decide. That killer instinct translated perfectly when she decided in 2021 to take the more lucrative and globally visible path of mixed martial arts. If Muay Thai was the proving ground, MMA was the empire waiting to be conquered. Her MMA debut was the kind of introduction every fighter dreams of. Matched up against Jenny Line, Dakota wasted no time in showcasing what would become her trademark violence. Elbows and knees rained down like a monsoon, and Line had no answer. By the end of the first round, the referee was stepping in to save Line from further punishment. The fight was a statement. This wasn't just a prospect, this was potentially the most dangerous woman alive in the sport. 5 consecutive victories later, Dakota earned a spot in the Professional Fighters League, or PFL. There, she was greeted by Hasna Gaber, a fight that ended in under a minute. Ditcheva's striking levels were immediately apparent as she demolished Gaber with a flurry that showed the difference between a regional fighter and a world-class assassin. With momentum on her side, Ditcheva entered the 2023 PFL Europe Women's Flyweight Tournament. In the quarterfinals, she was paired against Malin Hermansson. Many skeptics wondered if Dakota's skill set was too one-dimensional, suspecting she might be vulnerable on the ground. Instead, Ditcheva silenced those doubts in emphatic fashion by morphing into a submission specialist, sinking in a textbook rear naked choke that looked like something straight out of Charles Oliveira's playbook. In the semifinals, she dismantled Cornelia Holm with a knockout, and in the finals, she brutalized Valentina Scatizzi to claim the tournament crown. Yet, despite the European glory, Dakota's hunger was far from satisfied. Winning PFL Europe was just the appetizer. The main course awaited on the global stage. In 2024, Ditcheva stepped into the PFL Women's Flyweight World Tournament. After dispatching 2 opponents with back-to-back first-round finishes, she entered the semifinals against Jenna Bishop, a submission wizard boasting a 7-1 record. But Bishop's grappling was rendered meaningless once Dakota's striking bombardment landed. Like a general overwhelming the enemy with superior firepower, Ditcheva's offense made Bishop's defense crumble in minutes. That set up a monumental showdown in the finals with Taila Santos, a former UFC title challenger who had once pushed Valentina Shevchenko to the limit. Many predicted this would be Ditcheva's toughest test yet. Instead, Santos became another victim of her ruthless precision. In the second round, Dakota zeroed in on the body with devastating punches, folding Santos and adding yet another highlight reel finish to her collection. Most recently, on July 19, 2025, Ditcheva was matched against Hawaiian fighter Sumiko Inaba. Unlike most of Dakota's opponents, Inaba survived the early storm and managed to hear the final bell, becoming only the second fighter ever to go the distance with her. Still, the fight was completely one-sided, and Ditcheva walked away with a dominant, unanimous decision victory. Now, as 2025 winds down, the stage is set for perhaps the biggest fight of Dakota Ditcheva's career. Her next challenge is none other than Liz Karmouche, the battle-tested American veteran who has been a fixture of women's MMA for over a decade. When Liz Karmouche made her professional MMA debut on March 13, 2010, Dakota Ditcheva was just an 11-year-old kid with big dreams, raw determination, and the will to one day step into the cage herself. Fast forward to today, and these two women stand on a collision course, representing different generations of fighters but sharing the same hunger for glory. Along the way, Carmouche faced some of the most dangerous women in the sport, including the future pound-for-pound queen Valentina Shevchenko. Not only did Carmouche share the cage with Shevchenko, but she also became one of the very few fighters in history to defeat her by stoppage, an accomplishment that instantly elevated her name among the elite. Her first opportunity to capture a world title came in Strikeforce on March 5, 2011, when she challenged Marlos Conan for the Women's Bantamweight Championship. Although Carmouche fell short that night, it was clear that she belonged on the biggest stages in MMA. But the most historic chapter of her career came a few years later, when she made her UFC debut. On February 23, 2013, before this moment, UFC President Dana White was adamant that women would never compete inside the octagon. Over the next several years, Carmouche carved out a successful UFC run, collecting wins against some of the best the division had to offer, including Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy, and Caitlin Chookagian. Finally, on August 10, 2019, she received her long-awaited shot at the UFC Flyweight Championship in a rematch with Valentina Shevchenko. But this time, the outcome was different. Carmouche fought bravely, yet the judges' scorecards went to Shevchenko, handing Liz her third unsuccessful attempt at a world title. Refusing to let defeat define her, Carmouche reinvented herself in Bellator. After a strong 3-fight winning streak, she challenged Juliana Velasquez for the Bellator Women's Flyweight World Championship. That night, Carmouche imposed her will from the top position, battering Velasquez with relentless ground and pound to finally capture her first major title. Not only did she dethrone Velasquez, but Carmouche also gave her an immediate rematch. The result was even more decisive, a clinical armbar finish that showcased her evolution as a complete fighter. She would go on to defeat her Bellator title 2 more times before making the jump to the Professional Fighters League. Her PFL debut came on April 4, 2024, where fate matched her once again with Velasquez. For the third time, Carmouche walked away victorious. However, a tough decision loss to Taila Santos soon after had many questioning whether age had finally caught up to her. At 40 years old, it seemed retirement was near. But Liz Karmouche wasn't ready to fade quietly. In 2025, she entered the PFL Women's Flyweight Tournament, determined to prove she could still reach the summit. In the quarterfinals, she dismantled Ilara Joanne with her trademark ground and pound, earning a first-round stoppage. She then defeated Elora Dana by unanimous decision, setting up a high-stakes final against the dangerous Jenna Bishop. Against the odds, the 41-year-old veteran delivered one of the most inspiring performances of her career. Carmouche scored a dramatic third-round knockout, claiming the 2025 PFL Women's Flyweight Championship and reminding the world that her fire was far from extinguished. Now, whispers are growing louder. As the reigning PFL champion, Carmouche sits across the table from Dakota Ditcheva, the undefeated rising star and the promotion's 2024 champion. Some even speculate that their clash could take place under the UFC banner, on a blockbuster card rumored to be hosted at the White House itself. So, let's take a closer look at how that potential matchup would go. Dakota Ditcheva is 27 years old, entering her prime and hungrier than ever for success. Liz Karmouche, on the other hand, is 41, a true veteran of the game. She likely has only a couple more battles left in her gas tank. Cardio will be a major factor in this clash. Over 5 rounds, it's reasonable to expect that Dakota will start pulling away as the fresher fighter, gradually picking Liz apart in later stages. But knowing this could be one of the last times she steps into the cage, Carmouche will leave absolutely everything inside it. The real question is, will her best be enough to match Ditcheva's skill set? On paper, Dakota also holds a size advantage, standing 5 feet 8 inches compared to Carmouche's 5 feet 6 inches. She'll look to use her reach to control distance and chip away with sharp, precise strikes. Liz knows where her own strengths lie, though. She'll want to close the distance quickly, drag Dakota into her world and test her on the canvas, where Carmouche has built her reputation over the years. The issue for Carmouche is getting there. To bring the fight to the ground, she'll need to enter the clinch, and that's where Ditcheva thrives. Dakota's clinch game is among the nastiest in the sport. She punishes opponents with crushing knees to the body, elbows in tight, and relentless dirty boxing before disengaging to reset and strike at range. Even if Liz does succeed in taking the fight down, Dakota has repeatedly shown her ability to scramble back to her feet and force the fight into striking territory. That resilience makes it incredibly difficult to hold her down long enough to do damage or hunt for submissions. For Carmouche, the most realistic path to victory would come only if Dakota makes a mistake, leaving her back exposed or allowing Liz to secure full mount, where she could threaten with chokes or ground and pound. Inside of that, the matchup heavily favors Ditcheva. Dakota is by far the sharper striker. She mixes her attacks beautifully, softening opponents with punishing body shots before unleashing combinations of punches, elbows, and knees. Add in chopping low kicks and her trademark clinch brutality, and you have a striking arsenal that few in the division can withstand. If Ditcheva implements her game plan with discipline, this fight has the potential to be one of the most one-sided in recent memory. Carmouche's heart and experience can never be questioned, but against a younger, faster, and more versatile fighter like Dakota, it could turn into a long, grueling night for the veteran. If you enjoyed the video, front kick that like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the Dialed In MMA Club today.